Good evening, everyone. I just want to point out that numerous officers that were receiving awards this evening or they're out protecting our great community at this time are not able to make the event. They may come in at the last minute. So I will still honor the award recipient and read their award. For an award of merit with Patrolman James Evans of K-9 Venus, please come forward. On July 2nd, 2023, officers were assigned to a directed patrol operation in the area of Jarvis Road. During the operation, Officer Evans observed a vehicle traveling at a high rate of speed. A motor vehicle stop was conducted, and the vehicle was found to be occupied by 3 subjects. Patrolman Evans observed the rear passenger to appear nervous, which, based on his training and experience, indicated possible criminal activity. Patrolman Evans requested additional officers to the scene. Patrolman Evans conducted a search of the vehicle and located a loaded .40 caliber handgun with a modified high-capacity magazine. The incident was found to be the suspect's 3rd recent arrest for possessing a firearm. The suspect was charged with multiple weapons offenses and remanded to the Camden County Correctional Facility. Patrolman Evans is to be commended for his initiative and keen observational skills in detecting the criminal activity pursuant to a motor vehicle stop. His actions removed a dangerous offender with a loaded firearm from the community. You are to be commended for your dedication and the professional manner in which you handled this investigation. You are a credit to the Gloucester Township Police Department and the community we serve. Thank you. For a life-saving award, Patrolman John Benelli, Patrolman James Evans, and Patrolman Gary Turner. On July 4th, 2023, Gloucester Township Police received a 911 call for an unconscious male. Officers arrived at the scene and determined the male was not breathing and suffering from a cardiac emergency. Patrolman Benelli arrived on the scene and immediately began to perform CPR. Patrolman Evans and Patrolman Turner arrived and relieved Patrolman Benelli, all taking turns performing CPR as Patrolman Turner applied the automated external defibrillator, or AED, to the patient. Upon arrival of BLS, the officer continued to administer CPR. Nearly 40 minutes had passed and 9 shocks were delivered. The patient eventually regained a pulse and was transported to Jefferson Hospital in Stratford. On July 7, 2023, a follow-up was conducted with the patient's wife, and she invited officers to her home and informed them that her husband had been discharged from the hospital. These officers' training and experience ensured the life of this individual was saved. You are to be commended for the professional manner in which you handled this medical emergency. You are a credit to the Gloucester Township Police Department and the community we serve. Thank you. A distinguished unit citation would Sergeant Lisa Hatcher, Corporal Michael Miller, Detective Nicholas Bunting, Patrolman Christopher Butcheroni, Patrolman Matthew Spina, Patrolman Sean Kelly, Patrolman James Evans of K-9 Venus, and Patrolman Kevin Martina. Please come to the stage. On June 24th, 2023, officers of the Patrol Bureau 2nd Platoon, who are working this evening, were dispatched for a report of suspicious activity, specifically 2 males wearing masks and gloves, reported to be wiping down a parked vehicle. Officers arrived on the scene and observed 2 males matching the description, now walking away from the vehicle. Upon noticing the officers in the area, 2 males fled on foot into a wooded area. The men continued to lead officers in a foot pursuit through a residential area and jumping over fences. K-9 Venus began to actively track the area, and after tracking for approximately 1.5 miles, she led officers directly to one suspect who was successfully apprehended and identified. The suspect was charged with attempted theft, burglary, criminal mischief, and obstruction, then remanded to the Camden County Correctional Facility. The officers all demonstrated extreme poise and teamwork during this investigation, leading to the capture of the criminal. You are to be commended for the professional manner in which you handled this investigation, and you are a credit to the Gloucester Township Police Department and the community we serve. Thank you. And for a police service citation, Patrolman Sean Kelly. On September 12, 2023, Gloucester Township Police received 2 calls for service regarding someone hearing gunshots and 2 vehicles fleeing the area. Patrolman Kelly quickly arrived on the scene and began making his way to the rear of the residence. As Patrolman Kelly approached the rear of the residence, he heard the victim call out, "I'm shot," as he located an injured male. He immediately secured his weapon and obtained his tourniquet as he began to medically treat the male victim who had a gunshot wound to his leg. Upon the tourniquet being placed and secured on the victim, Patrolman Kelly further assessed the victim, looking for additional wounds. During this stressful and evolving situation, he was able to calmly direct additional units to provide cover while an extraction plan was made. Patrolman Kelly kept his calm composure as he was also acting in his capacity as a field training officer and was simultaneously directing his trainee on securing the perimeter. Additional police and EMS personnel arrived on scene and the victim was transported to the hospital. In total, it was discovered that 4 residents and 4 vehicles had been struck, as numerous shell cases were recovered, as well as a handgun. Patrolman Kelly's training and experience contributed to his great poise to quickly and safely render medical care to a victim during a highly stressful and active investigation. You are to be commended for the professional manner in which you handled this investigation. You are a credit to the Gloucester Township Police community that we serve. Thank you. Would Security Director Eric Daniels please come to the stage? This is an award of Citizens Commendation. In the summer of 2023, Security Director Eric Daniels, on behalf of Allied Universal Security and his team of security officers, assisted with a series of arrests for shoplifting at the Gloucester Premium Outlets. He and his team have assisted the Gloucester Township Police with locating and in some cases stopping a total of 7 shoplifting suspects who were subsequently taken into custody and charged for their crimes. The security officers provide a critical service to the police department, but more importantly, they provide safety and peace of mind to the shoppers and businesses within Gloucester Premium Outlets. Frequently, when calls for shoplifting are received, suspects are known to flee the area before police arrival. Many times, with assistance from Allied Universal Security, their security team has routinely located suspects until police arrive, followed suspects, and gathered pertinent information for officers to complete their investigations. This series of arrests are just an example of the long-standing teamwork between the Gloucester Township Police Department and Allied Universal Security under the leadership of Security Director Daniels. We thank you for the valued support and continued assistance. You are to be commended for your leadership and the ongoing collaborative assistance in these investigations. You are a credit to the Gloucester Township Police and the community we serve. Thank you. For police service citation, Detective Nicholas Amundo, Detective Dennis Richards, and Patrolman Dylan Gallagher, please come to the stage. On April 17, 2023, officers were dispatched a report of a theft from an elderly male. The male reported that over the course of the past 2 weeks, his laptop had been hacked. He was contacted by an individual alleged to be from Microsoft Security, whom he thought was going to assist him. The victim was instructed several times to withdraw and send large sums of money to the supposed security company, including a large cash money delivery of $30,000. Gloucester Township Police detectives learned during an interview with the victim that he was requested to make another large cash money delivery. Detectives used this as an opportunity to set up an operation in an effort to arrest those involved. They planned for the money drop, laying in wait to apprehend the suspect when they arrived. The suspect arrived at the agreed upon meeting spot and officers were able to safely detain the male. While detectives interviewed the subject, they were able to ascertain he and his associates were responsible for multiple scams in the tri-state area. This case garnered the attention of the FBI and further collaborative investigations to target scammers were planned for the future. The collective efforts of the officers involved had culminated in large charges against the defendant and possibility of a larger scale investigation with the FBI. You are to be commended for the professional manner in which you handled this complex investigation. You are a credit to the Gloucester Township Police and community we serve. Thank you. For a distinguished unit citation with Detective Dennis Richards and Pennsylvania State Trooper Michael Arundel, please come forward. On December 31st, 2022, officers were dispatched for the report of a male resident who was the victim of a robbery in front of his home. Detective Richards responded and interviewed the victim. The male stated he had been at the Rivers Casino in Philadelphia, and upon his arrival home, he was met with a masked subject who robbed him of his wallet containing $4,500. Detective Richards was provided surveillance footage of the incident that was captured on the victim's home security camera. Taking the lead on this case, he began to develop a suspect and leads. He was able to determine the victim's debit card had been used at a store located not far from the casino. Detective Richards contacted other agencies in Pennsylvania and provided them with descriptions of the vehicle and the subjects. He was soon contacted by Pennsylvania State Trooper Arundel with the Bureau of Gaming Enforcement. Trooper Arundel, who was actively working on the case as well. They were now working together and reviewing countless hours of footage from the casino. They were able to identify the suspect and charge him with the robbery. The collaborative efforts demonstrated by each officer culminated in the charge for robbery and later an arrest of this criminal found to be involved in numerous other incidents at several casinos. You are to be commended for the diligent, professional manner in which you handled this investigation. You are a credit to the Gloucester Township Police Department and the communities that you serve. Thank you. For a life-saving award, would Sergeant David Benoni please come to the stage? On July 1st, 2023, the Gloucester Township Police received a 911 call for an unconscious male at a home on Earl Road. Sergeant Benoni was the first arriving officer and found the male was not breathing. Sergeant Benoni immediately began CPR. Upon arrival of the paramedics, it was determined that the male was suffering from cardiac arrest. Sergeant Benoni continued CPR as medics were assisting with life-saving care. After 20 minutes, the patient regained a pulse and was transported to Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital as life-saving measures continued. He was admitted to the cardiac intensive care unit for further treatment. Sergeant Benoni's experience and training as a police officer and emergency medical technician, along with his quick actions, all contributed to saving the life of this resident. You are to be commended for the professional manner and actions in which you handled this medical emergency. You are a credit to the Gloucester Township Police Department and the community we serve. Thank you. An award of citizen commendation to Mr. Vincent Tarracone III. Please come to the stage. On the evening of January 18th, 2024, Mr. Tarracone heard strange noises coming from his neighbor's house in Glendora and went outside to investigate. At that time, he walked into the backyard of the home and observed flames coming from his neighbor's residence. Mr. Tarracone knew that his neighbor was an elderly male who lived by himself. He immediately ran to the front of the residence and without hesitation he entered the burning home. He found his neighbor on the ground and badly burned. Mr. Tarracone heroically grabbed the male and was able to carry him to safety in his front yard to await emergency medical personnel. Mr. Tarracone showed true courage without regard for his own personal safety. The victim was transported to the hospital with severe burns and was reported to be in stable condition. You are to be commended for the bravery and courage displayed during this crisis situation. You're a credit to the Gloucester Township Police Department and our great community. Thank you. For a police service citation with Detective Daniel Savati. Please come forward. On May 2nd, 2023, officers were dispatched for a report of graffiti spray painted on a dumpster of a business. Investigators noticed the same graffiti was spray painted on several other businesses in the downtown section of Blackwood. Detective Savati searched area businesses and residents for video surveillance. As he began checking the cameras, he initially identified a person of interest that was observed walking in the area during the times of the crime. As he continued to follow up and investigate, he observed the vehicle, possibly that of the suspect on a surveillance camera. Detective Savati went to one of the businesses that were victim of the graffiti and began speaking to an employee. He quickly realized that the employee matched the description of the person of interest and that the suspect vehicle that was on location. He also located another camera angle that showed the suspect committing the crime. Detective Savati contacted the suspect and convinced him to respond to police headquarters to turn himself in. His diligent efforts resulted in the suspect being identified and charged for the damage to several businesses in the township. You're to be commended for the thorough and professional manner in which you handled this investigation, and you are a credit to the Gloucester Township Police Department and community we serve. Thank you. A distinguished unit citation with the following, please come forward. Patrolman Sean Thomas, Patrolman Francis Quinieri, Patrolman Christopher Fascini and K-9 Dixie, Patrolman James Barbelson, Patrolman Shane Iannelli, Patrolman Michael Biltz, and Patrolman Nicholas Dayton. On July 6, 2023, officers were conducting an extra patrol in an area that had been experiencing some criminal activity. While conducting this patrol, officers were flagged down by a resident who advised that her motor vehicle was just stolen. Police dispatch was immediately notified of the theft and provided with a vehicle description. Other patrol units arrived in the area and began to search for the stolen vehicle. A vehicle matching the description was observed traveling at a high rate of speed throughout an apartment complex. Once it was confirmed that it was the stolen vehicle, officers activated their lights in an attempt to stop the vehicle. The suspect vehicle fled and engaged officers in a brief motor vehicle pursuit, ultimately called off to preserve the safety of the public, officers, and suspects. The vehicle was then located nearby, unoccupied, and abandoned. Officers began a perimeter and search of the area when a male was seen matching the description of the suspect who fled the vehicle, and he was immediately detained, identified, and charged for his crimes. The collaborative efforts of the officers involved ensured this criminal was successfully apprehended without any injuries to the public or officers. You are all to be commended for the professional manner in which you handled this investigation and arrest. You are all a credit to the Gloucester Township Police Department and the community that we serve. Thank you. For a life-saving award, would Patrolman Craig Padilla, Patrolman Shane Iannelli, and Patrolman Thomas Canuck please come forward. On February 14th, 2024, Patrolman Craig Padilla, Patrolman Shane Iannelli, and Patrolman Thomas Canuck were dispatched for a report of a 51-year-old female who was actively seizing. Once officers arrived, they were directed to an upstairs bedroom where a family member was performing CPR. The officers quickly assessed the woman's condition and determined she was not breathing. Patrolman Padilla immediately took over compressions. Patrolman Iannelli prepared the defibrillator and applied pads to the patient, while Patrolman Canuck administered oxygen. The defibrillator provided shocks as the officers continued CPR until EMS personnel arrived at the home. While on scene, the patient had retained a pulse and she was transported to a local hospital. 4 days later, a follow-up revealed the woman was still in the hospital and receiving medical care. Due to the quick response, training, and teamwork of these three officers, they were able to save a life during this crisis situation. You are to be commended for the professional manner in which you handled this medical emergency. You are a credit to the Gloucester Township Police Department and community we serve. Thank you. For a police service citation, would Patrolman Gian Lepetto and Patrolman Anthony Esposito please come forward. On September 13th, 2023, Gloucester Township Police were dispatched to a noise complaint in an apartment complex. Patrolman Esposito was the first officer on scene and quickly notified Patrolman Lepetto of a suspicious occupied vehicle. Patrolman Lepetto was able to locate the vehicle, which 3 occupants had exited from and remained in the front passenger seat. 1 had remained in the front passenger seat. He began collecting information from the passenger when he observed in plain view a 9mm Glock handgun on the rear floor of the vehicle. Patrolman Lepetto had the passenger exit the vehicle and she was immediately and safely taken into custody without incident. Patrolman Lepetto was able to notify Patrolman Esposito of the firearm and requested he take the other occupants into custody. One of the male passengers attempted to flee from the officers, but all were ultimately apprehended. The search of the vehicle was conducted and located an additional stolen 9mm handgun. The criminal occupants of the vehicle were charged with multiple weapon offenses and remanded to the Camden County Correctional Facility. You are to be commended for the diligent and professional manner in which you handled this investigation and arrest. You are a credit to the Gloucester Township Police and the community that we serve. Thank you.